The Mirror in the Attic, Chapter 1. The inheritance. When Clara received the letter informing her of her great-aunt Margaret's passing, she felt a mix of sadness and curiosity. She hadn't seen Margaret in years, not since she was a child. The old woman had lived alone in a sprawling, decrepit mansion on the outskirts of town, and Clara had always found her intimidating. But now Margaret was gone, and Clara was the sole heir to her estate. The lawyer's office was dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of old paper and dust. The lawyer, a stern man with a receding hairline, handed Clara a set of keys and a thick envelope. "Your great-aunt left you everything," he said, his voice monotone. "The house, the land, and all its contents. She was very specific in her will that you should have it." Clara nodded, her mind racing. She had no idea what to expect. The last time she had visited the mansion, she was only 10 years old. All she remembered was the eerie silence and the feeling of being watched. As she drove to the mansion, the sky grew dark, and a light rain began to fall. The house loomed in the distance, its Gothic architecture casting long shadows across the overgrown lawn. Clara parked her car and stepped out, the keys jingling in her hand. The front door creaked open, revealing a dark, dusty interior. The air was thick with the smell of mildew and decay. Clara stepped inside, her footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. The house was exactly as she remembered it: cold, unwelcoming, and filled with secrets. Chapter 2. The attic. Clara spent the first few days cleaning and exploring the house. It was filled with old furniture, dusty books, and strange artifacts that seemed to belong to another era. But it was the attic that intrigued her the most. The attic was accessed through a narrow staircase at the end of the hallway. The door was locked, but Clara found the key among the set she had been given. The lock clicked open, and she pushed the door open, revealing a dark, cluttered space. The attic was filled with old trunks, broken furniture, and stacks of yellowed newspapers. But what caught Clara's attention was the large, ornate mirror standing in the corner. It was covered with a dusty sheet, and Clara felt a strange pull towards it. She removed the sheet, revealing a beautifully crafted mirror with an intricate frame. The glass was slightly cloudy, but Clara could see her reflection clearly. As she stared into the mirror, she felt a chill run down her spine. There was something off about it. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the mirror, its presence lingering in her mind like a dark shadow. She decided to move it to her bedroom, thinking it would make a beautiful addition to the room. But as she carried the mirror down the stairs, she felt a strange weight in her arms, as if the mirror was resisting her. She ignored the feeling and placed it on the wall opposite her bed. Chapter 3. The reflection. The first night the mirror was in her room, Clara had a strange dream. She was standing in front of the mirror, but her reflection wasn't her. It was a woman with long, dark hair and hollow eyes. The woman smiled at her, a cold, lifeless smile that sent a chill down Clara's spine. Clara woke up in a cold sweat, her heart pounding. She looked at the mirror, but it was just her reflection staring back at her. She told herself it was just a dream, but the unease lingered. The next day, Clara began to notice strange things. The mirror seemed to shift when she wasn't looking, its surface rippling like water. She would catch glimpses of movement in the reflection, but when she turned to look, there was nothing there. Then there were the whispers. At night, when the house was quiet, Clara would hear faint whispers coming from the mirror. They were too soft to make out, but they sent a chill down her spine. One night, Clara decided to confront the mirror. She stood in front of it, her heart racing. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. The surface of the mirror rippled and the woman from her dream appeared. She was dressed in an old-fashioned gown, her face pale and her eyes hollow. She smiled at Clara, her lips curling into a grotesque grin. "I am Margaret," the woman said, her voice echoing in Clara's mind. "And you are mine now." Chapter 4. The ritual. Clara's life began to spiral out of control. The mirror's presence grew stronger, its influence seeping into every corner of her mind. She would wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, the whispers echoing in her ears. She knew she had to do something. She couldn't let the mirror control her. She began to research the mirror's history, scouring old books and documents for any clues. What she discovered was chilling. The mirror had been crafted in the 1800s by a man named Victor Blackwood, a notorious occultist. He had used the mirror to trap the souls of his victims, using their life force to extend his own. The mirror had been passed down through generations, each owner meeting a tragic end. Clara realized that the mirror was more than just a mirror, it was a prison for the souls of the dead. and now it had its sights set on her. She decided to perform a ritual to banish the mirror's influence. She gathered the necessary supplies: candles, sage, salt, and a ceremonial dagger, and prepared herself for the battle ahead. That night, Clara stood in front of the mirror, her heart pounding. She lit the candles and began to chant, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. The surface of the mirror rippled, and Margaret appeared, her hollow eyes fixed on Clara. She began to crawl out of the mirror, her movements jerky and unnatural. Clara continued to chant, her voice growing louder, more insistent. Margaret let out an ear-piercing scream, her form twisting and writhing as if in pain. The whispers grew deafening and the walls seemed to close in around Clara. She felt a cold hand brush against her arm and she spun around, her heart racing. Margaret was gone, but the feeling of dread remained. Clara finished the ritual, her voice trembling as she chanted the final words. The air grew still and the whispers stopped. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a loud crash echoed through the house and the mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces. Chapter 5. The aftermath. Clara's life returned to normal, but the memory of the mirror and Margaret's hollow eyes would stay with her forever. She decided to sell the mansion, unable to live there any longer. The new owners moved in a few months later, but Clara couldn't shake the feeling that the house was still haunted. She would wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, the sound of whispers echoing in her ears. She knew Margaret was still out there, waiting, biding her time. And as she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, she couldn't help but wonder if the shadows would ever truly leave her, or if they would always be a part of her, a reminder of the price she had paid. Epilogue. The mansion still stands, silent and dark. The new owners have reported strange occurrences, whispers, shadowy figures, and the feeling of being watched. Some say they've seen a woman in an old-fashioned gown, her face pale and her eyes hollow. Clara tries to forget, but the memories haunt her. She knows Margaret is still out there, waiting, biding her time. And as she lies in bed, staring at the ceiling, she can't help but wonder if the shadows will ever truly leave her, or if they will always be a part of her, a reminder of the price she had paid. The end.